Hello again, and I'm gonna start up my paradise. Um, so one thing I like to do to stay motivated is give myself little goals, and um, the next little big goal that I'm working on is to make it so you can build a house. And a house consists of walls, background, and the background is what blocks the actual sort of the global background, and also a functional door that you can click on. So in order to do that, one of the first requirements was that you can um, switch between uh, different items. And so now you can open your inventory and you can click on one of these. And there's also a couple other things you can do. You can like place blocks now. It looks a little bit janky, but whatever. Um, Also, you can't dig yet because I haven't reintroduced pickaxe. Um, and you can also place walls. And walls, I'm I'm gonna just embrace the programmer art for a while. Like it's just gonna look bad uh, for some things. And with walls, like you can place it, and you can also, if you hit R, it'll rotate. Um, and you can put things in midair because why not? I guess. But one problem that I haven't solved yet is you can't actually create an enclosed space that doesn't look terrible. Um, so I need to. I mean, that's sort of the next thing that I need to work on is to make. I mean, technically this is walls, but I want to actually look like usable. So I'm gonna make corner pieces, and also, if you think about, there's those corners, uh, and then there's also like this. There just needs to be sort of a T-shaped thing, and then lastly, there also needs to be a cross-shaped thing in case you have. Basically, it's a rectangle or a square with either one, two, three, or four different sort of arms coming off of it. Um, and Yeah, so I'm gonna work on that. Um, so I've been doing most of my work in just paint.net, which is pretty nice for free software or otherwise. Um, you can turn on the pixel grid, and so I'm gonna call this. So this is a 32 by 32 right now. Um, I'm gonna save this as a corner, or I can make them like named after what they look like. So I'm gonna say L, and so let's see if it's uh, I mean it is 32. You can see over here in the bottom left corner it says 32, and the actual width is this bit is 16. So really, we're looking for a 16 by 16 square. No, that's not what I wanted. There we go. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so that's square. So now I'm going to just um, take the paintbrush. No, that's not what I want. Select, and I'm going to invert the selection. And then I'm going to start deleting. So the purpose is I'm going to delete this top part. And now I can just hit delete. And that's part of the way there. So now so we want to go starting here. Yeah, this isn't the right color, I realize that. But I need to deselect this area first. So I can pick the color. You can't pick the color outside of the selection area usually. Ta-da! Okay, so there's that. Save. And now we're going to make the next one, which is going to be T-shaped. And this one might have been easier to do first, but too late for that. Okay. Looks good. Next one is going to be sort of all 4 points, because we can just rotate the rest of them. And I don't know if that should be like plus isn't really well. I don't know if that will work very well. So I'm going to call it X because it's a sideways X. Okay. So there we go. Just to make sure these corners are actually square, 8 by 8. 8 by 8, okay. It doesn't quite look square to me for some reason. 16 by 8. 8 by 16, but I guess it is. Okay. So now if we go back to texture packer, ta-da, more shapes. And okay, let's try and pan around. Okay, those look good. I just have to make sure I call them out. Publish, and looks good. So, well, now all I have to do is remember what they're called. Yeah, these guys. So the way I was thinking of doing this is every time you place a tile, you like refresh the tiles around it, because you shouldn't need, and you should only need to do that once. You shouldn't need to recursively propagate changes around. I think if you place a tile in one spot, there won't be something 2 spots or more away that gets changed, probably. So it's really just about joins with your direct adjacent thing. Something else that I thought about that you could do, you could enable the player to cycle through each piece individually and require them to rotate. But that just means instead of a straight edge, that they need to keep track of the 4 different shape types and the rotations for those various things. And I think people don't really care about that, or maybe if people who do care about it can sort of optionally have that sort of high level control. But really, you just, I don't know. I think the automatic way is the right approach. So I haven't thought exactly what this is going to look like yet, but beyond what I just said. But I have maybe some ideas. So in the player controller system, this is where it's sort of weird. I set swinging weapon here. I set swinging weapon to true if when you press the left mouse button down, I'm like, oh, the player is swinging the weapon now. Even though it's not necessarily a weapon. Like they could have, they can equip, it's just an equipped item. It used to be called a weapon and now it's called an equipped item. And you can equip a block component, which is what you'd expect it to be. It's a block. And so now I have to come up with a way of organizing these new sort of coordinated things. Anyway, so what it does here, if what you have equipped is a block, then it gets the name of the block. I'm doing a few more things instead of just strictly classes. That actually there's like sort of a text name, and this means it's going to persist better through saves. And it also means if you want to add new block packs later on or something, it'll be more flexible, I think, because it's just text. Anyway, so block name, then it maps that block back to a item type. An item type is something that you have in your inventory. and then it takes the point where you clicked and it snaps that to world coordinates, because otherwise it's very, it's going to be some random fraction, and this snaps it to a location. And so then it says get block at point, queries the world to see what you clicked on. In the same way that you were destroying blocks before, except now it just returns what you clicked on instead of doing anything. And this is the sort of thing that shouldn't really be in player controller system. It should be somewhere else, but it's the only thing that uses it right now, so that's okay, I think. So if there's no block where you clicked, and you're able to successfully take one item of this type from your inventory, because just so that when you run out of something you can't keep placing it, then it calls create block on that point, and it rotates it appropriately, in case you wanted to rotate it using R, and then if you're out of that item, it unequips the weapon, the weapon, air quotes. It's just it's a block. So this is going to be a bit hard, actually, because you have to keep track of rotations and you have to keep track of the relationship between the 4 different blocks. So what this is going to be like is I'm just going to sort of hack it up for starters, and then I'm going to come up with sort of the right way to do it later on. So let's see. So the various block names, these are just strings, but the item types are a bit more strongly typed. Yeah, so there's like a wooden wall. So this does a little bit defeat the point of what I was just saying, in that like there's not necessarily a type for every block, but I'll sort of deal with that later more properly. Anyway, so for now, I'm trying to differentiate between wooden walls and other types. Anyway, I changed my mind. I think I'm just going to go by block name, but I don't know exactly what it is. So let's start up the program and try placing a wooden wall and see what happens. Okay, so when you place a wooden wall, block name is wooden wall. And, if you look for where wooden wall is, I think it's actually just, was I just looking at it? I think it's this one. Yeah, there's the block wooden wall, and it just has a name wooden wall, and that's what that's what you refer to it as in its string form. So anyway, so you can say if block name equals wooden, I should say, this is confusing, but I will fix this at some point. Something like this. Then after it gets placed, I want to update call update wooden wall at a particular point, and this is going to be that's going to get really tiring. So I'm going to call update wooden wall on the center and each of the four sides, and each of those 4 things are going to check to see. It's not going to recurse. It's going to check to see whether there's wooden walls on either side of themselves, and if so, update to a different sprite and a different rotation. So that might be tricky because, well, like, it's not just a visual component, it actually changes its shape. So you pretty much have to destroy and recreate the entire block. But I think that's okay. I haven't really, so it's confusing because it's the same exact block. It has all the same properties. It just has a different shape and a different sprite. And I don't know, like dirt is sort of like that too. If it's a top block, it looks different and has, if it's a corner block, it has a sort of rotated edge. Um, so at some point, I need to figure out the answer to that. Where does that function I just want to go? I just created a function. Oh, there it is. Nope. Yeah, okay, whatever. So this is going to be an exact x. Oh, hold on. This isn't quite what I wanted. So this is to the right. This is to the left. This is up or down. This is the other up or down. And I'm also going to include the check that this is a wooden wall, even though we don't know for sure that it is. So I need to check inside here that it's actually only applying to the right things. So there's this great function get block at point that I wrote. This is sort of a confusing name. I'm going to change it to world position. Create a handy little vector. If you're on a, I think I've said this before, if you're on a desktop that has like any amount of power at all, you don't actually have to worry about object churn. Like, short-lived objects get cleaned up very quickly by the garbage collector. Unless, I mean, if you're doing a first-person shooter, maybe you still want to care about that. But I don't know if people are doing those for Java. Okay, so this returns the entity at the given point. And if you look at World Builder, this is what creates all those entities. It has a transform, a physics, a terrain component, and texture region. So the terrain component is going to be what we're interested in. The rest of these are sort of vague. The terrain component accepts a terrain type of type string, and again, this is going to be like wooden wall. So let's say terrain type equals, block might be null. Actually, we can say return here. Ta-da! Okay, now block is no longer null. Because if it's not there, then we really don't care. Ta-da! Get terrain component. And we can assume it's going to have that terrain type. So let's just validate what we think we're going to see so far. I'm expecting to see wooden underscore wall, but I just want to make sure before I get too much further. Ta-da! Okay, wooden underscore wall. That's at the current point that we're, this is at the point that we know that there's a wall because we just created it 1 second ago. Okay. So this is going to be sort of inefficient, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to check to see if there's a block above, below, left, and right. The thing that makes it inefficient is every single one of those blocks is going to be doing this, and so there's going to be some duplication. Like you don't really need to check that the center block is there for the top, right, bottom, left. Like the right one, like right of the left one and left of the right one are the same block, but I mean, it's not that many comparisons. Anyway, so the up block is, no, this is gonna be a chore. I'm gonna add a secondary constructor or secondary method to this. Okay. Well, that looks a little bit better, doesn't it? Okay. I would assume up is going to be positive, but you never really know. You can also vary it in your system. It's configurable per program. Okay. Since I make copy paste errors all the time, I'm gonna just take another second to make sure this looks right. So above is +1, below is -1, left is -1, right is +1, and the y's are consistent with these two. Okay, that looks. Oh, well, I don't want these returns actually. Okay, so that looks good. So the other thing is we only care. So the other question is, do we want these only to have joins for? Do these only want these to change if there's a wooden wall at these other points, or not? But I think if there's anything there, I think we want it to change. Anyway, I can change this later. I mean, like, do we filter? Like, do we filter on the presence of being any block there, or does it have to be a wooden wall block? And I think, at least for now, I'm going to say it has to be any block. It can be any block. So, okay. So, now we're going to say, what's the smartest way to count the number of nulls in this? It's not the most efficient, but I think I'm going to say like this. So if I create a sequence of those four things, and I filter not null, and then count. That's just filters all the nulls out and then counts what's left. So again, I'm not really sure. I always think the most important thing is to get something in there that works, and then if it's too terrible, to go back and fix it. But start out with something that works first. So neighbor count is 0. That's not how switch statements work. At 0, then we don't think we need to do anything. Just whatever got placed is fine. And then if there's one neighbor, well, like one neighbor is like when you place that one ledge out, one block off the ground, and I think that's still pretty fine. It's really the interesting part is I don't like that auto format. The interesting part is when it's 2, and I'm not going to do all of them right now, 3 and 4, because those are complicated. And I don't think it'll illustrate anything additional. So when there's two, it's either left and right, top and bottom, or some of the other combinations. Um, so I'm gonna say if they're on opposite sides, eventually there will be a little hover. I don't know if there'll actually be a rotate feature in the finished version, um, but there'll be sort of a like a blueprint that you can sort of hover around, so you can see like if it's on two sides and you place it pointing the wrong way, if you sort of break the connection that way, then well, then that's your bad, and you can delete it and recreate it. So basically, I'm saying if there's two that are null and those two are left is not equal to null and the right is not equal to null, or above. Actually, I don't need these. I don't technically need these parentheses because and is high precedence. Above is not equal to null and below is not equal to null. Then do nothing. So, however, if it's something else, so then we want to say, we want an L bracket. And we are going to be destroying the block, so I think we can say, well, I don't want to do that. First we want to remove it, and then we want to say, no, we don't want to create a temp file. Block builder.create block. I want the same position as before. So here's the thing here's where it sort of gets brain bendy, is I already have wooden walls somewhere. Well, here's one of them, and the asset for this is always wooden wall, which is the basic straight edge one. But how do I have? I like all wooden walls should behave the same. They just need to look slightly different. That's gonna be tricky. I think for now I'm gonna do the horrible thing and call it wooden wall left. Well, not left. You know, L shape. Corner. That's gonna confuse me later. And so this object here is the same. Again, I need to think this through better and come up with something not terrible. Okay, so basically, oh, it would have been confusing. Yes, go away. Wooden wall corner. So now the block type that I want to create here is this guy. And for the rotation is a little fiddlier. Like, I don't know how to exactly do this without a bunch of like case statements, but I might have to do that. So here it's if right and like it's either going to be right and down and left and up, or up and right, above and right. So I guess there's only 4 cases there. So rotation is, and this is just sort of humdrum. If right not equal to null and below not equal to null, Then rotation is 0. And set angle is in... I should leave a comment here. This one's obvious that it's in radians, but this one's not obvious that it's in degrees. Anyway, so 0. Else if below not equal to null and left not equal to null. Remember, we only have to check 2 of these because we know that there's only, because we're in this big 2 branch. Then we want 90 degrees. Else if below left not equal to null and above not equal to null, then 180. Else 270. At least we don't have to write in that last one. Okay. Okay. So now I think we can just set rotation. And let's see what happens. So we're expected to still fail for 3. If there's 3 neighbors and you're expecting a T-shape. Moment of truth. Oh, go away. Oh. Why did that crash? Maybe it was just a fluke. Let me try one more time. It probably wasn't a fluke. Nope. Okay, so we're calling get item type, and it's probably looking for the corner wooden wall. Oh, right. So another thing I made it so instead of just having all these magic classes that happen to exist, then you now have to register blocks that exist with terrain types. Yeah. Okay. And part of the reason is because I've got this weird dual system for, like, there's terrain types here in the game world generator, and there's also terrain types in the blocks, like here. And these ones are probably what I'm going to stick with. They're more, they have more data, whereas the wooden wall is really just, it's the terrain type one. So if I copy this and make it all cornery, okay, let's try again. Moment of truth. Hey, well, that sort of worked. Yeah, so that's actually an interesting point. Well, okay, so it's not like it's sort of working. Actually, that one's horribly wrong. So bottom and left are backwards. Exactly backwards. Below and left. Let me assume that these are all backwards. Okay. 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 So I think those are working now. But as you can see, if there's only one connection, I think you still like maybe you shouldn't just be able to do this anymore. Like it doesn't make any sense anyway. So maybe they'll always rotate the right way. So I'm gonna say this isn't super important to do this moment, but it looks pretty bad right now. So I want to just fix it. Um, so if there's a single one, and this is gonna look pretty. This is gonna look like this, but it's gonna be a lot simpler. It's not an eye, it's a pipe, because eyes have those little things at the ends, but otherwise it's pretty close. So I'm going to say if right equal to null. So first I want to do the default case, and that is if top is equal to null, if top is not equal to null, not top, above. Or we're not doing and because there's only a single thing. If above is null or below is null, then rotation is 0. Otherwise, actually, otherwise it's 90 degrees. Or negative 90. It doesn't really matter because it's symmetrical. So now I just need to change this from wooden wall corner to wooden wall name. So now it should always, so for starters, you shouldn't be allowed, oh, well that one has two, that one has three, oh it has 3 neighbors. That one's funny. Well, I mean, that looks pretty, that looks like it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. So there's no 3-way stuff yet, obviously. There's no 3-way joins. So, but otherwise, it looks good. And this still works. So yeah. So I'm gonna, between videos, I'm gonna come up with some way to better handle those, I don't know, not sprite aliases, but like it's all wooden walls, and when the game gets saved, it doesn't really need to keep track of which angle it is, probably, and because when the game is placing everything, it can reevaluate which corner it's in, unless the player has very specifically overridden the default and somehow placed that. But you can't do that right now anyway. You can rotate, but then it sort of overrides your rotation, so it doesn't really matter. So anyway, hope this was fun.